If you wanted to just give an introduction about how the slides are there, so people know where to look, and we can go from there.
Sure. Thank you. So everybody, welcome to the group conversation for the quality department. And I'm going to quickly link where the slides are. It's in the document, but I'm going to link it into the chat as well. Before we start, I'm going to just let people digest the slides for a few minutes, and then we'll get started on the conversations. Thank you, Ashton. And I want to say that we have both engineers from the engineering productivity and also the test automation side as well to answer questions on the GitLab Insights migration performance tests, whatever else. So please just throw us questions our way.
I would love to have a better understanding of what GitLab Insights is.
Sure. Thanks, Valmir. So GitLab Insights came as an inception of how do we track the metrics on bugs, and it evolved from that into tracking the velocity and the metrics of our engineering department. There's multiple uses of this. First, we need to know if we're moving fast and if it is a reckless velocity or if it's a good velocity. If we're pushing merges fast, but the number of bugs are going up, or are we resolving the bugs fast enough for SLA? If one of those metrics is hanging, that's kind of a reckless velocity, and that's not productive, because then you need to fix those bugs again when it goes to production, right? So a good productivity, a good velocity is like if the throughputs are going up and then the bugs are going down and the bugs are not getting faster. That's a sustainable velocity, and we want to move in that manner, because that's what I would categorize as being productive, because you're making sure it's high quality from the start, and it's not going to come back to bite us towards the end. And from then on, that's evolved into the dashboard that we have today, and it's going to get migrated into the product.
Okay, thanks.
If I'm busy taking notes, I would appreciate it if someone on the quality department can help us just write down the things that we discussed. Thank you. No questions. So either we did a good job with our slides, or you need to give people more time.
I had actually gone through the document before the meeting, and I don't know if this could be a suggestion for next time, so that we don't, lose time just reading during the meeting time, but beforehand.
Yeah, I think the new format is the slides are linked from the Google Docs, correct, Ashton? So you just have to click in the Google Doc, and then the slides should be there as a single source of truth.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to respond to, because typically those slides are available to people before the meeting, but that doesn't always mean that that everybody's reading them beforehand. So it is helpful, I think, to link them at the beginning of the chat, and if people are prepared with questions, they can dive right in. Mac, any big wins that you want to highlight for your team since the last time you presented?
Yeah, so slide number 6 is the GitLab Insights migration. I think we've made significant progress here. There's a proof of concept that actually renders the graph inside the product itself. There's still some scaffolding going on. So it's looking great so far. We expect to have the production-ready graphs on issues and bugs be inside the product itself, and this is something we are very excited about. These are big wins. And the other big win is slide number 9, which is we were able to get tests to be green for 6 days. That's about the max we have so far. A lot more fault tolerance mechanism is being built in, and a lot of it also ties to how we do the deployment and release and staging, because it's not always the latest master. But yeah, this is a lot of progress. It's not perfect yet, but yeah, we're aiming at getting that to be perfect. And if something fails, then everybody knows and jumps on to fix it right away. But those are the 2 big wins that I would highlight from the team as accomplishments. Thank you for asking.
Awesome, thanks.
Are we receiving help from other departments on making this effort for the tests being more reliable, or so far it's more just the quality department that is working on it?
Really great question. So we do want to enlist help, but we need to be specialized, right? I think enlisting help is great, but we need to make sure that they can help in a productive way, which means we need to write the test in a way that it's fault tolerant and easy to be written and read by the people. Like if we enlist help and they spend a lot of time reading the test and they don't understand the test, then it's kind of a waste of other people's time. So we need to ensure that first. But this is a great question to ask, because if you go to slide 12, the first challenge under top 5 is we need to enlist more help with the test planning process. And that's like an easy help that engineers can jump in and help right away, is make sure that the coverage is there for your feature and just close out the test plan. There's still a lot of test plans to be closed out, and a lot of that work has been facilitated and done by the quality department team. I think that would be the first iteration to enlist help in, while we work on the test retries, and if you see the dynamic locator validation that Dan has added. So those are going to pay dividends down the line in making the test framework more fault tolerant. Thanks for asking. Another thing I wanted to highlight, which is a really high urgency, is performance tests. We are running into this head on, and this is a performance test bed that's going to be shared by Stan if you attend Stan's engineering fellow GC earlier, and also the memory team as well. So right now, staging and production is not a good representative of what on-prem customers are going to run on their environments. Ideally, they're running a 10K user, but this is our first iteration. So creating an environment with 10K users is not a first iteration. It probably comes later. So we have to transpose the load down. So if we're running 10K and we're loading up with 12K users, we transpose it down to the smallest environment. If it supports 400, we're going to load up with 500 or 600. So test the load out on a small scale as a first iteration, and then iterate on forward. Right now, the focus is on NFS, because that's where a lot of enterprise companies configure GitLab as. As we get better at this, I envision more environments. There could be an NFS and then non-NFS, and then maybe a bigger environment later. But this all relies on all the great work that the infrastructure team has been doing. I know that Anthony is working on creating new test environments easier by Terraform and all the scripts. So it's dependent on that as well. But this is the first iteration, and it collates a lot of help from everybody to get this to happen. So yeah, wanted to underscore that urgency here.
I think there's a question from Francis.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can verbalize that. So I'm curious about GitLab.com and performance. Is that your team that handles that? And if so, if I was at a conference, somebody said, "Oh yeah, GitLab.com is really slow," Like, what do we do with that information?
Was this before our migration to GCP, or was this fairly recent?
No, it's like recent, like yesterday.
It's recent. Okay. So we have performance tests that runs on .com. So the same performance tests that we run on staging and later production are the same sets of criteria that we run on-prem as well, but maybe transpose down to the lowest good. But yes, it's on our radar. And if you have any more information here, please let us know. It could be events that is production related in a short term, but do you know specifically what part of the application is slow, or is it issues or merge requests? Our performance tests that Rami has been working on, like we create an issue with a lot of labels. We create a merge request with like 5,000 lines of diff. So we're making progress in that regard. But if you have more specifics, then please do share with us so we can help close out the gap.
Okay, we can take it offline.
I see Dahlia in the call. So I might just pull in for a brief discussion on throughputs. So is there anything else that you think we're missing, Dahlia, for dashboards and throughputs that you would like to see in the product?
So for throughput itself, I think we're in a good place as far as that chart. But I did like that you mentioned that development metrics that we're trying to build are complementary. So we don't just want to track throughput; we want to track quality. We don't want to only look at throughput; we want to also look at cycle time. So yes, there are definitely additional metrics that we'd love to put together and start to have a comprehensive dashboard that is a good reflection of how the development and engineering teams are doing as far as delivering with quality, maintaining speed, avoiding burnout, and so on and so forth. So if that's something of interest to others, there is an epic that I created within Insight, and I think we're not necessarily going to invest in implementing these based on our conversation before within Insight, but given the migration to GitLab, those will be valuable to add and prototype and maybe do first and second and follow-up iterations within our product, because I know they will definitely benefit not only the leadership, but engineers as you're looking at your team and your work. I'd like you to similarly look at these metrics and be able to have a good sense of how your team is doing, how your work is contributing to the product, and so on. Does that answer your question, Meg?
Yeah, I just want to use that to highlight chart number 7, because we do have an engineering working group, and it's in the handbook. It's open to everybody in GitLab for transparency. Underscoring that the average merge requests per month and throughputs are just a number. I think productivity falls 2 ways, right? If you're moving fast and then you're incurring a lot of bugs, that's not productive, because it's going to come back and incur costs later. So yeah, just want to underscore the effort from that we're doing there in slide 7. Thank you, Dahlia.
I actually had a question about that as well, and maybe this
sure.
is. I think this falls under that. So if you had an epic, Dahlia, to link to that would be awesome. But I was, as a recent hire, going through like my first real feature freeze, it was interesting to see like productivity shoot up quite a bit, but obviously it's a very high stress time as well. And so I'm wondering what, in terms of like maybe like developer happiness or comfort or stress levels, we're actually measuring or taking steps to measure, and how that contributes to quality or even just throughput.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dahlia. I know you have
Sorry. So thank you for the question, Lucas. Yes, absolutely. If you look at my OKRs for this quarter, I am working on an MVC for tracking, I started off calling it happiness survey, but I think happiness is a bit an overloaded term. So what I'm going with is a pulse survey. And the intent of it is to just get some weekly pulse from the team on how they feel about their work, how they feel about their manager, how they feel about the company. Obviously, these are all contributing factors. This is not going to be like this data. I don't look at it and say, if all the numbers are high, then my teams are happy and everyone is enjoying life and is fantastic. They're just a good data point and one of the ways to measure something that is really hard to measure and sometimes very subjective. So Lucas, you have not been exposed to this because I've limited the MVC just in the interest of learning and iterating quickly to the configure backend and the monitor backend teams. So I would love to kind of hear their thoughts. I've been getting some comments and the managers have been able to get some feedback on that. But that's the purpose of it. And my hope is that as this practice matures a little bit, so in the next iterations or so, I would love to include other teams as well, if they would like to participate. So that's another metric that I'm proposing to add to this development dashboard, because I agree with you. A high stress time with high throughput, but where the teams are burning out, you need a different measure to get a sense that that's not a very sustainable practice. And again, does that answer your question, or do you need more clarification? I will link to the epic as well.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do an MVC on happiness too. I think that the Dahlia is leading. So yes, happiness is on the radar, and I think engineering management is really well aware of that aspect. Is there anybody from the monitoring team on the call? I might start up a discussion myself. I see Ben. Ben, are you on the call?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm haven't been feeling well the last couple of days, so I've been hiding.
Thank you, sir. So we do have plans to incorporate usage pings for on-prem customers and maybe record hard times from premises in the wild. We might not be able to do that, but we would love to collaborate with your team on this and define. So essentially record like the disastrous times, like a tree ring where like this is a spike in CPU or this is a spike in usage, and then back.
Actually, one of the things that we've been discussing about in the monitor group is, and we've been talking about this with support, is the ability for customers to hook. So as part of our normal distribution, the Omnibus distribution, we include a Prometheus monitoring system built in, and that collects all the data from the local instance, including all the timing information and all the regular statistics that we used to run GitLab.com and do the performance analysis of GitLab.com in real time. And we've talked about making it possible for customers to ship that data to us. Using there's a technique called remote write, and that remote write would allow the embedded Omnibus to just straight up stream their monitoring data directly to us.
That's awesome. Okay, do you know if that work's being done, and can we be in the loop on how that's going to get rolled out? Uh-oh.
Sorry.
No worries. Hope you feel better.
Basically, there's not any specific plan. It's like but it is something we're talking about, because of course we need to figure out how we would operate that, how we would fund that, and whether how we would communicate that to as a feature to customers, and like how would that get paid for, because of course it would require a significant a moderately serious amount of investment to operate an entire monitoring cluster for our customers.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely keep you in a collaboration here. I think that's like once we are focusing on the on-prem testing on our side, but we do also want to know if a good account is suffering from hardships, then that would give us information ahead of time, and we can contact them earlier on. So yeah,
that's exactly what the idea is. We could have basically an auto support where because Prometheus can fire alerts and send us data, we can receive that data and get an alert from a customer's instance before they even know that they have a problem.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's just it would require a pretty serious investment effort on our part to operate a monitoring service or possibly outsource that to another company we've been talking to.
Yeah, I would assume streaming telemetry is going to be hard because then we're taking up the bandwidth on the customer's end as well, correct? So there's nuances in data.
That resource is not terribly high. The remote streaming protocol sends a lot of data, but it's compacted and fairly reasonably efficient. It's more about operating a large scale distributed storage cluster to receive data from many customers. So we operate just to run GetLab.com. We have about a dozen different Prometheus servers monitoring various components, plus a Thanos storage cluster and all that kind of thing. To run something that we could, we would probably want to run something like a Cortex cluster, which is a very large scale Prometheus service, and that could cost quite a bit in terms of compute resources and human time to have an SRE team that would run that for our customers. So I'm just off the top of my head, I'd say we probably need one full-time engineer's worth of time just to operate the Cortex cluster, distributed over different people, but it would probably take one and a half of an SRE's worth of time just to run that, plus the computational resources to run the Cortex cluster.
Great insights. Great info. Thanks for the discussion, Ben. We'll definitely reach out once we take on the usage pings. Thank you. Yeah, no, I would love to see that go forward because it would make it really easy. Of course, a lot of customers that are privacy sensitive and they may or may not want to do that, or it might take some convincing for them to hey, look, this is the sanitized list of data that we're sending. It doesn't include any of your private data. It is just the performance numbers coming from the system. I think we'll give it a couple more minutes. We're close to 25, so give time to join the company call. But are there any more questions or discussions? The floor is open. Our team is here, so any questions at all from the team?
I had a question about the enablement specifically. I saw on slide 12 under challenges that number 5 was need to make new hires in engineering productivity ASAP. We're not able to get to GitLab docs, GitLab GDK work. So I know it's not an OKR, but I'm curious if capacity is a blocker there, what is the initiatives there? Is that really just around having capacity to maintain those products, or is there active work on improving the developer tooling?
The capacity is to start making incremental changes to improve the tooling. Productivity is also the ability to set up the GDK and make sure you can test things on your local environment before you send an MR. So these fall into that team's responsibility. We are just really stretched thin right now. And there's also some GitLab code reviews and maintaining GitLab docs that we would love to help with, but we're not able to get to. But as far as the GDK work, everybody can contribute. I'm really against having a line drawn where this team owns this and this team owns that. There are subject matter expertise and maintainers for that project, but everybody can contribute. I think we are concerned on covering it from our end. I think right now, every engineers, if they have time, they contribute a little bit to the GDK. But from our side, we would love to get more of a handle on things and actually set a longer term plan on how it's going to evolve. There's also the GCK that Camille has, which is another second version of the GDK based on Docker Compose. That's also kind of in beta that we are looking to as well. But right now, the focus is on the GDK. Does that answer your question, Lucas?
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. I want to say thank you to the team for taking notes as well. I think we're at 25. Ashton, do you think we should just let people prepare to join the company call? I don't think there are any more questions.
Nope, I think that's good. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, everybody. This is the first format for our department. So next time I will advertise the slides a bit further in addition to Google Docs. And thanks for your participating. Thanks for your time. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mac.